Hey, so I just wanted to come and do a documentation video really quick about, I already did a demo showing different emotions and the religious assets, and this is a file that wasn't a file I, intended to do for a demo. I'm actually not going to play the sound because this was for a project and the soundbite here actually has some curse words and it's kind of risque, and I know where the beats are in this animation because I worked on it for a long time, so I don't necessarily have to. I also don't want to garble up the audio and what I'm trying to say also with this audio playing from my computer, but essentially what I wanted to talk about was lip syncing. So we don't have really audio within the plea deal simulation, although we do have lip syncing. When the lawyers and the prosecutor and defense attorney come out, their sprites have different set mouth shapes, and those mouth shapes are summoned within the code and change based on the certain consonants and stuff that appear within the text and the script as it appears on the screen. So as the words are being, generated by the script and appearing, in the simulation with the text, the lawyer and judges are basically, kind of lip syncing along with the text. And, the general basic mouth shapes are kind of encapsulated within those particular files if you want a reference for mouth shapes. If you want references for more mouth shapes, you can just Google mouth shapes, really, and they'll come up. Depending if there's some very specific, consonant or, thing that the character is supposed to be saying, or a strong emotion that needs to be expressed. That's also why I picked this file, because at the same time that, it has a lot of these different mouth shapes, there's also a bit of an attitude going on, and if you ever do need to actually lip sync and import audio, I did do a video a little while ago about how to import audio into Adobe Flash. But if you want to lip sync, I just wanted to just give a quick look at, this file and the general mouth shapes and where they kind of appear. The good thing about after you import audio into Adobe Animate is that there's this kind of sonograph that shows generally when sounds are happening and when major sounds are happening. And if you know what is being said or what you need to be lip syncing to at the moment, then this is a pretty good guide for when you need to make certain beats appear in certain lip transitions. So that's helpful. The unhelpful thing about Adobe, and the other reason I'm not really going to play the sound while trying to demonstrate this, is if I played this and stopped it, say, along this point in the timeline and played it back up again, it wouldn't play the audio from there. It would just be silent from there on out. If I wanted to hear the audio, I would have to play the whole thing from the start. And that's a little bit annoying, but it is how Adobe works. Hopefully that's a problem they fix in the future, but that just is what happens, unfortunately. So that's just one of the things you'll have to contend with, and I believe I mentioned that on the other video. But here's just a quick kind of basic intro to some of the mouth sounds that are appearing. Here we have the character starting in neutral and then going to this pose, which looks similar to neutral, but what's happening is she's kind of pursing her lips because she's about to make and you'll see this with sounds that are like B or P, like B or like P. You need anticipation and build up to when they open their mouth and make that noise. So that's what's happening here with this weird position of the lips, and then going into making this ah noise, and followed by T. And T is where the tongue appears in the mouth. And the thing about lip syncing is you don't want it to get, you want your lip syncs to be pretty clean, but also the teeth and tongue do come into play when you're talking. So it's good to include those to make especially what your character is saying more clear and the lip sync more concise. However, as you can see, I didn't outline anything in the mouth in black. I did the lips. All the inner mouth is unoutlined, and that's because while those are features, outlining in them in black just makes it makes actually things less clear and more confusing, as well as drawing too much attention to what's really going on inside the mouth when we're focusing on the lips. The focus is the lips, but teeth and tongue do play a role. So here, a T sound is happening, and going forward, some other important mouth sounds. I believe this is O happening right now. And when you say make an O noise, all the references will have this kind of reference. The mouth is kind of closing and forming like an O shape to say in order to say an O. So, you know, that's the shape you want to encapsulate. The mouth gets, smaller and actually makes an O shape before it's making an O. And this goes into and this is going to right here she's saying like why you and so shapes like this and like this are good for O. I believe this shape though, looking at what's happening, was used for like a W sound, and that's a particular kind of, sound. So with letters and stuff that are kind of weird in particular, just look that up. So, wah. Is kind of what's happening. So we have why you mad. And again, this looks like a pretty neutral position of the lips, but what you can see is they're actually really like kind of stretched out and drawn, because that's what happens before you say mad. Like, if you say mad, you're gonna like really stretch your lips together and like press them out and have them kind of drawn. And here's another one. So I said with I you have the tongue appear in the mouth, but you also have it with S, and S is a really interesting one to draw because not only do you have the tongue appear in the mouth, but it's behind the teeth and it's pressing against the teeth when you're trying to make an S like consonant noise. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing an S. And those are just some basic ways, to draw similar. And, like, a good way to, like, kind of, lip sync as well is if you're maybe not sure how you, like, would draw something, say it yourself and, like, try to feel what your mouth is doing and then, translate that in a way that makes sense. Yeah, so here, yeah. In going through now, I hope you can, like, kind of see, like, okay, we have the O, there's mad. And here she's saying, like, my, so, like, my, and, that elongated S sound again, yeah, and as you go through, obviously, you may not be able to necessarily tell exactly what the character is saying, but you can kind of make out, here's the different, mouth sounds that are happening and the mouth shapes that are happening, and, what is going on. And again, this can go kind of in with emotion because, a character could be saying something and smiling, a character could be saying something and angry. You can affect, the position of the mouth doesn't necessarily have to be set in stone. Maybe for certain things, where the mouth is more neutral, it can be upturned or downturned depending on, the mood. Like here, the character is kind of, questioning. Throughout this, she's pretty aggressive and kind of, has a bit of, mad, so the lips are downturned really at certain points, but then, get upturned into a smile, but that's mostly when she's not talking. But really, just take what you were taught about, transitioning between emotions and go with that into transitioning between, sounds, because you don't necessarily just match up, oh, I saw this reference that says this mouth shape went with this sound, so I'll do that. Now, as I said with certain shapes like you have, anticipation. Certain sounds and certain things have two steps to them. So, just to do an effective lip sync, you have to kind of pay attention. Uh, if a lip sync is something you're kind of tasked with in the future, this could be a good thing to learn. And it's just a general good thing to know about animation. And even if you aren't lip syncing to sound, lip syncing is something that's very relevant to the situation, and potentially they may want to expand the code and the script and how we lip sync currently, perhaps with more mouth shapes, and it's just good to know how, you might draw certain things within the script.